to another bite-sized marketing session with me, Miles, from Miles Marketing. And today we're going to be talking about public relations, PR, and how to get some free PR. This is a subject I think which is a little bit unknown for the majority of small business owners. And what I'm going to try and do today, if you like, is just dispel some of the myths and give you some top tips in terms of PR and how to get yourself some coverage. I mean, ultimately, you know, PR itself or public relations, we associate with very large brands. However, I'm going to share some stuff with you today which may change your mind. If you are watching live on LinkedIn or on YouTube, then please drop us a little message in the chat and let us know that you're there. It's always lovely to know that actually somebody is listening out there in the ether. I'm just going to check the old. So it does say that we are live on YouTube. There we go. I'll keep an eye on this because I can see the comments. Right, well, while we wait for some people to jump on, I want to draw your attention to next week's webinar. December's coming round quick, and the 6th of December, we have the fantastic Dylan Gandy with us. And Dylan's going to be talking about SEO, search engine optimization. That's his specialty, but not just, I mean, I did one a few weeks ago talking about basic SEO. Dylan's going to be doing a deep dive into SEO and specifically around retail. So if you sell things online, especially if you sell things on platforms like Amazon, then it's definitely going to be one to tune in to. Right, okay. Let us crack on with public relations and how to get free PR. So have a pen and paper at the handy. I've got my Remarkable 2, gratuitous plug, with my notes on just to make sure that I don't miss any nuggets for you. So let's start and talk about PR in general, right? And I'm going to say this, that I know a lot of smaller companies can't afford to engage with a PR firm, but I think I've got to say right from the get-go that I would always endorse that you use a professional PR company, and a PR company that operates within your world. Again, I don't want to use the niche word, I don't want to offend people out there, but there are specialist PR people, and generally they've come from that industry. Yeah, so they know the journalists and they know the key noisemakers within those industries. So I'm a big advocate of using a PR firm that specializes in your industry. Okay, that's the first thing I've got to say right off the bat. And for public relations, I guess there's two main functions. The first one, I'd really hope that you never have to get involved in, but that's the sort of the crisis management side of PR. So something bad happens, and your business is implicated in that happening, and having good crisis management or a good PR firm to be able to handle your side of the story is oh so very important. The second sort of the more fun side of PR is, that whole being an expert, talking about what wonderful things you're doing, showing off the USPs of your company, and really building. I mean, we talked about building your authority within your area a few webinars ago. This is one of those tools that you can really use to build up your sort of expertise. So where do you start with PR? Well, I'm going to say the first place you should start is with a plan. And not specifically a PR plan, although that's fantastic, but for a lot of companies, I'd suggest why not start with a basic marketing plan, right? Let's start there. Let's start with a basic marketing plan, and then we can weave PR into it. Because what's really important about any PR piece, any press release that you might put out there, is it's got to tie back to a wider, bigger story within your business. So if you formulate a good marketing plan, you can incorporate PR as a part of it, so that when you are talking about press releases and getting coverage within the media in general, when people refer back to your website, your social media, your shop, whatever it may be, that there's some kind of thread that ties everything through. Yeah. So it feels like a cohesive campaign. Start with a plan. That's where I would suggest you start. Um, don't, here's another tip, don't be afraid to show off. I was chatting to a good friend of mine who started doing some. He's been getting quite a bit of coverage in the local press. I won't. I won't name drop. I won't name drop. But you know you are. And he was sort of saying, oh, he didn't really want to like repurpose of it on his website or share it on his social media, as he felt it was a little bit show offy. Well, show off, right? You're getting, at the end of the day, you're the ambassador for the company. And I don't think that telling people about being on the radio or being featured in a newspaper is showing off. It depends how you go about it, right? At the end of the day, especially those that love you the most will want to listen to you on the radio or read about you in the paper, right? So I would say be a show off when it comes to PR. Oh, here we go. Hang about. I knew there'd be a couple of the usual protagonists coming on. Danny says that we deal with a lot of crisis management PR firms when we're investigating cyber breaches and cyber attacks. Yeah, I mean, look, you definitely want to avoid that type of PR. However, I'm a real advocate that if there's a story happening, you want your own say. Right, so it's like not being on social media. The conversations are going to be happening. Be a part of them and try and I was going to say control the narrative. That's probably the wrong thing to say, but try and be part of the narrative so that you at least get your point across. Okay, so yeah, it's a good point, Danny. I mean, a lot of us will never, hopefully, be in a position to sort of have crisis PR management, but it's important to perhaps have a have a contact that you can ring if you do need it. Hello, Justin. Hello, Justin. Right. Okay. So coming back to what I was saying, don't be afraid to be a show off. So the other thing I think you need to do is to make sure that you you keep a track or you repurpose your press releases. So you're going to take time to write a release and send it out, and hopefully you'll get some coverage. But if you don't get any coverage, why not repurpose that press release into a blog article or an article on your website, and you're creating yourself a little bit of content there. You might want to add in a few keywords if you like to help with your SEO, but don't just write a press release, send it off, don't get any coverage and think, I didn't get any coverage, I'm not going to do anything about it. Repurpose that press release to increase the content on your website. If you do get coverage with some of your press releases on, let's say, in the local paper, I'm not going to say that I think you should republish the whole article. Definitely shout about it on your social platforms and on your websites, but perhaps you want to keep sort of like a PR section on your website and create a scrapbook, a digital scrapbook, for want of a better phrase. Not putting perhaps the whole article in there, because some publications can get a bit funny if you sort of rebroadcast the whole of their work, but perhaps do your own little synopsis, a little case study, if you like, where you can use a little snippet or a sound bite for your own purposes. Now, in terms of where to start, I'm not going to suggest that you try and get on the 10 o'clock news tomorrow night, right? I'm going to say to you, start local. That's where you need to start. You need to start local. And you need to start thinking about what around you is going to be your easy wins. Now, in broad terms, the vast majority of media outlets, right? Websites, television channels, radio shows, newspapers, magazines, they are all hungry for content, right? It's a relentless content eating machine. So they're very grateful of you supplying content for them, right? In the right manner. So don't think they don't need your content. They do. They need lots of it. So don't be afraid there. But when you start local, think about your local community. So maybe there's a local newsletter that gets produced. They will need some content. Maybe you're part of a networking group, a local chamber of commerce. They might produce a monthly newsletter, and maybe you can be a part of that. Maybe you could write an article for it. And what I'm talking about here is not promoting your business per se, but you being the focus of being an expert in a subject matter. You know, think about local community magazines, free newspapers, that kind of stuff as a really a nice, easy way into getting some coverage. And then it builds up, right? So you start off local in your locale, and then it builds up. So you start talking to the local newspaper, or you start speaking to the local radio station, or there's some specialist press out there, a trade magazine as an example. And if I'm to talk a little bit about these now, your local newspaper, think about how you can create a local news story, right? This is not about you promoting your business per se, right? That sort of comes as a part of it. But we'll talk about the specifics of it. But again, local newspapers can, especially if your target market reads the local newspapers, right? If you're appealing to like the teens of the world, perhaps they're not going to be reading the local mag. But if you've got something to sell to maybe an older popular, if you've got something that appeals to an older age group, then absolutely the demographics of the local paper hits the spot completely. Local radio, hospital radios, community radios. Again, if they're on air, they won't be on air 24 hours a day necessarily, but if they're on air for the majority of the day, that's a lot of time to fill up. And especially what I've had a lot of coverage with in the past has been breakfast shows, local breakfast shows like BBC Radio Essex as an example. Getting on the breakfast show and talking about a specific subject is always a little bit of an easy win. And then we sort of climb up. We're talking about regional news, BBC News, ITV News in a regional context. And then you build up to national news and national newspapers and national radio stations. And let me tell you, that sort of pyramid, right? Your local community, building up to your local area, your local newspaper, building up to the local radio stations, the area, the regionals, and then the nationals. In terms of that pyramid, the vast majority of the national news stories have originated from the local area. It gets like pushed up the chain. So let's not think that the national news just create these big national news stories. They've generally been fed up the chain by the regionals and then by the locals. Okay, they all sort of scan each other's feeds and pull on the stories that they think are relevant. So by you appearing, if you like, on a BBC local radio, you may well prick the interest of a national BBC radio station, as an example. Okay, so what about some sort of ideas or subjects? Well, the first thing I'm going to say here, oh, thank you, Timia. Some great tips. She's watching it on the go. That's the beauty of the internet these days, isn't it? And having good mobile phone signal. Well, good day to you, Timia. It's lovely to see you on. Now, this is something that I know Timia is close to Timia's heart. Storytelling. Okay, this is so important in terms of a really compelling press release. You've got to tell a story. You've got to get people sort of emotionally involved. It's not about, look at me, look how good we are at doing stuff. It's really about you sort of writing a nice narrative to engage people. And in the first instance, we're not talking about engaging the end consumer. You're talking about engaging a journalist to think, oh, this is a nice story. I'm going to pursue this and maybe put my own little sort of spin on it. So I'm going to suggest that you be true to yourself when you're writing content. Think about the USPs of your business and maybe how they have applied to what you are saying. Think about the values you've got of the business. Think about your tone of voice, like the way in which you want to convey the said issue. Sorry, it's my phone ringing in the middle. Oh dear. Well, at least you can tell it's live, right? So think about telling a really good, compelling story. Now, this story may be a feel-good story, or it may be a story about pain, issues that you're having. It may be about giving people employment opportunities in your local area. It might be about expansion of your business. It could be about you giving back to the community in terms of something that you do. There might be a charity tie-up. And I'm going to suggest a little word of caution here in terms of a charity tie-up. It's very easy to use charity as a little bit of a lever, if you like, to get coverage. And I would just be very careful about being genuine about what you do around charity. Okay, I know we all do a lot for charity, mate, but we don't like to talk about it. It's fine to talk about it. Just be sensitive in terms of making sure that the charity has been put front and center, not your business and how your business helps charity, and perhaps as a bit of a tax saving by doing it. Okay, I tell you what. Actually, I tell you what. I was at a strongman show in Liverpool on Saturday, and this is a PR opportunity, right? And they were auctioning off a picture to aid to raise some money for children that were suffering from cancer and going through cancer treatment. So it was a really nice charity. Anyway, the long story short is that they went around this big arena in Liverpool asking people to donate for this picture, and it got up into thousands. And one guy stuck his hand up and said that he would give £5,000 for it. And the guy said, "Oh, so what's your name?" And he said, "Oh, my name's John." And he said, "Well, where are you from, John?" And he said, "The ice bath company." Obviously, he meant where you're from, as in where do you live. But he took the opportunity to make it all about his business. And whilst that was funny, right? He left a sour taste in my mouth, right? And I just thought, okay, like this is really about the kids that are suffering from cancer, mate, not about your bloody company and how your company is going to be paying money towards it, right? So for me, it didn't have the desired effect that he thought it was having by promoting his company. And funny enough, I had a text off one of my mates who was watching it over the internet, and he was like, "Why don't you bid £6,000 and say you're from Miles Marketing?" And I was like, no, right? That is not what I'm about. So that's what he's about. That's fine. I would just say when it comes to charity, just be considerate. Okay, it's about the charity, not about you. Right, what other things? Record breakers, right? Maybe the Guinness Book of Records is a little bit old these days, But, you might be breaking records or breaking out new ground or being a pioneer. That's very newsworthy. Maybe you can jump on the back of events like the World Cup that's going on. Maybe you're doing something specifically for the World Cup. Maybe you're allowing your staff to have time off to watch their team play during the World Cup or something like that. Think about tying in with holidays, like we've just had Thanksgiving gone by. Maybe you've got a lot of American employees and blah, blah, blah. Eco, I mean, look, talking about the environment these days, what is your company doing to become more eco-friendly? If you own a hotel, are you swapping out the single-use plastics? All of this kind of stuff can be really nice if it's tied in with, like, Earth Day, that kind of thing. Some people will say, oh, don't jump on the bandwagon. I'm going to say, jump on the bandwagon, right? And Justin, who I see is on the call today, who's in mortgages, he's been getting a lot of coverage lately by jumping on the bandwagon. When there's a conversation about mortgage rates, Justin's there, and Justin has managed to get lots and lots of coverage. Maybe, Justin, you could just put in the chat a little list of just some of the publications that you've got name checked in recently, because it's quite impressive that by being proactive with your PR, you can create quite a bit of it. And when it comes down to free PR, I know that Justin pays for the platform he's on, but proportionately, it may as well be free, right? It's a small amount of money. So, Justin, that would be great for our viewers if you can just put in what you've achieved in the last few weeks with your PR. So, a couple of other sort of tips. You can use things like Google Alerts to find out about what is currently topical within the world, and you can write some content that is applicable to that. You might want to think about producing a media pack, which is really something which the papers or the radio or the local TVs can pick up and find out a little bit more about you. If you can look like you are being professional about your approach to PR by creating a media pack, as it were, that's a downloadable PDF off your website, then a journalist is going to feel a lot more comfortable about engaging you as an expert and asking your opinion. Now, Justin says he's been on BBC Essex Radio with the Financial Times advisor, the Independent, Trade Press. I mean, look, I was saying start local. BBC Essex is local, but I know that Justin wrote one article and then it was picked up and it was pushed up the chain, and he managed to feature in the Financial Times. It's quite amazing, and the Independent, national newspapers, all from his local article. And there is a free option. I know I'm just about to talk about that now, Justin. So there are sites that have been created now. I talked a little bit earlier about the fact that media is a content eating machine. There are now websites out there that journalists use to get content that's created by you. So just some of these websites, and I'm not going to tell you that there's a particular one that I think you should be using, but have a look at them. There are free services on most of these, and Justin's put in the chat that Newspage is the one that he's been using, but there are loads of these type of sites. So just some of them. There's one called Harrow, which stands for Help a Reporter Out. So these are all things where journalists use them. There's PR Web, there's News Page that Justin's been using, and there's PR Newswire. They would be like the top 4, I would say, that you want to start with. I mean, Justin's saying that he's been in 18 different publications in the last month. In the last month. 18 different publications. Now, I know that in his mortgage world, mortgages and interest rates are topical right now, but I'm sure that the same is true for whatever world you're in. You can jump on the bandwagon, as it were. Now, when I talk about traditional media, I think you talk about the big 3, right? You're going to talk about newspapers, radio, and TV. And I'm going to say to you, and Justin's proof, that you're never too small to appear on these larger platforms. So when it comes to the local paper or even the national paper, you want to try and find the journalist that covers the particular area that you're writing about. So let's say that you've introduced a new bit of technology, or you've introduced some eco measures into your business. Look for a journalist within the publication that writes about those things. So there will be like a tech reporter or an environment reporter. Send your press releases to them specifically if that's what you've been writing about. Otherwise, you send it to the news editor. All right. And if you want to know who you need to send it to, then go on to the particular newspaper's websites and go to the contact us place section, and there will be the details that you need in terms of sending press releases in. Now, the majority of press releases, they get sent at the beginning of the week or the end of the week, and they're all there first thing in the morning. So if you want to stand out from the crowd and play a little bit clever, then sending things mid-morning in the middle of the week, you may get yourself a little bit more coverage. This is one of the reasons why I would say use a PR firm, because the PR firm will potentially have relationships with journalists or the news desk already. And within what you'll see on a lot of newspapers and TV websites is that they have specific sections for the press, right? And PR. So it's another reason to use a professional company. So that's the local papers. Look for the news editor or look for the journalist. When it comes to TV, did you know that ITV have 14 regional sub-channels, as it were? So there's ITV, I'm going to say ITV1 now, and then new ITVX that they're banging out there. But there's all of the regional variations. There's Central, Meridian, Anglia, Wales, all that type of stuff. There's 14 regions. With BBC, there's 12 regions, plus there's the Welsh, Scottish, and Irish channels as well. So think about those. And if you've got something that's really newsworthy, I would suggest that instead of going to the main ITV network, you go to the regional network first, okay, and get yourself picked up there. With radio, again, think about radio. It's content hungry. You can really sort of get your profile raised on there, and they're always looking to speak to experts. So even if you haven't got anything to say, if you feel you're an expert in a particular field, then make sure your local radio station know that you're an expert. Send them in some, your CV, for want of a better word, or a media pack about you, and suggest to them that next time they've got an article that needs your expertise, that they give you a ring. Okay. And you never know, you could end up on the BBC breakfast sofa sometime soon. At this stage, I'd say don't forget social media, Twitter, Instagram. A lot of reporters, they are on Twitter, and in Twitter specifically, or they were until it imploded. That is a way in which you can talk to them directly, and you can perhaps start to build a relationship there and get noticed. So I'm just going to try and sort of wrap things up. We've talked for quite a long time on this subject today. I'm not going to talk about exactly how to create a fantastic press release. I mean, that would be maybe a whole webinar in itself. But how to create a good press release. First of all, tell a story. Secondly, use a real punchy headline, something that's going to grab the attention of the journalist. Keep it short, 150 words, around about that area. Don't write, chapter and verse. Keep it nice and short. Lead with the punch. Within your first paragraph, make sure that you hit it really hard with what you're trying to get it across. Make sure you provide quotes. They also add interest. Provide some images or a video. And provide your details at the very bottom. So you write your article, and then underneath you write the details of you and your company and your contacts. And then don't forget that if it doesn't get picked up, reuse it, regurgitate it for more content on either your socials or on your website. Now, I'm going to finish up with my top 3 tips for getting free PR coverage. So tip number 1 is tell a story, make it compelling, make it engaging. Okay. Make it about the topic, not about your business. That's tip number 1. Tip number 2, use these free online platforms. Justin, you can see there, is living proof, if you like, that he's had 18 different sets of coverage in the last month alone. Check them out. They were, let me just go back to my notes, Harrow, which was help a reporter out, PR Web, News Page, and PR Newswire. Check those 4 out for a good platform to get your press releases out there and to answer the questions that because the journalists go on there and say, I'm writing an article about, can you contribute? And that's what happens, right? Tip number 3, contact your local newspaper, your local radio station, your local TV station, and suggest that you are an expert in your field. Send them your news pack that bigs you up, so that they can feel confident in contacting you when they have this type of story. They will have all these things on file, and be prepared to be called up at short notice, because the news is dynamic, right? Something will happen overnight. You might get a phone call quite late at night. Hey, Miles, something's going on. Can you come on the show in the morning and tell us your view? All right. So there we go. That is my public relations and how to get free PR. It's been a long one today. Thank you very much indeed for staying with me. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please feel free now to continue the conversation after this live. And let's get some engaging conversation going. And why don't you let me know if you have any success getting yourself some free PR? Right, well, if there's no more comments, I will sign off, and I will look forward to seeing you next week, where we've got the fantastic Dylan Gandy coming on, talking all about SEO and how it affects you in the retail market. So thank you very much indeed for commenting, Justin, Timia, and Danny. I really appreciate you checking in today. And until next time, ta-ta.